This is not the first time that a housing levy is being proposed in this country. This happened about 2 or 3 years ago in the previous regime. We were concerned about the concept. Some details were hazy, and we thought that the idea of providing affordable housing for Kenyans is a commendable idea. But then you have to involve the Kenyans in determining how to do it. As employers in the private sector, we actually do provide housing for our staff. We pay housing allowance to our staff. We are required to do that by law. According to the law, if an employer does not house an employee, then you're supposed to pay 15% of the basic minimum wage as housing. We negotiate collective bargaining agreements here on a daily basis with unions where there's a union in an enterprise. So the idea about housing allowance is not new. It's already there, provided for in the terms and conditions of service that a lot of employers have with their employees. So the affordable housing, I think, is targeting the poor Kenyans, the unemployed Kenyans, the indigent, and it's a good idea for people to have decent housing. Our challenge with the housing levy as proposed is first the quantum. 3% by the employee, 3% by the employer, 6% deduction on your salary to go towards housing. Because Kenyans have not been involved in the conversation, chances are that quite a number of those we're targeting already have houses, they're servicing loans. How are we going to treat that? It is a fund that is proposed, so we will all be contributing towards a fund. There is no guarantee that once you contribute to that fund, you'll get a house. The criteria for selecting those who get houses, we don't know. Deciding the location of that house, because if you're working in Eldoret or you're working in Kilifi, you may not want to own a house in Nairobi. You'll want to have a house near where you are. And most Kenyans, particularly those at the lower end of the earning spectrum, prefer to have the first house they own at home. So we have to factor in the value system of Kenyans. We have to look at their living standards. We have to look at their earnings, their net earnings, and determine this 3% that we want to deduct, can it be affordable? Is it sustainable? So there are those challenges. Do Kenyans want, the Kenyans who are in formal employment, do they really want the burden of an allowance, a deduction, a contribution towards housing? So we think there are a lot of questions around this, and we really want meaningful conversation around it. At this point, the Federation finds it difficult to support the housing levy as proposed. Our members are complaining. It is coming on the heels of very many other proposals that constitute taxes and levies to us. We've just implemented the NSSF at 6%. There are discussions about NHIF going to 2.75% of an employee's salary, and we haven't even talked about the finance bill. So the housing idea is a noble idea, but Kenyans are saying, could you please talk to us? Could we make it voluntary? That is what the Federation has asked. That if you make it voluntary, then Kenyans will decide whether they want to contribute to the fund or not. If you make it mandatory, then it impacts the take-home pay of the employees. As employers, we know that the employees will turn right around and ask us to bridge the gap. The 6% or the 3% the employees deducting will eventually be pushed back to the employer, and the employer will be asked to top up the salary to be able to cover that. So it portends an increase in the financial spend by employers on staff costs, and it will put pressure on the employees' take-home pay. For those reasons, we're saying let's go back to the drawing board and discuss the housing levy alongside all these other proposals on taxes and new levies that are being proposed.